doesn't take a whole lot of money, does it, to grow wealth from when you're young? You don't need to put in thousands of dollars every month.
No, you really don't.
From the grit and the grind to successful minds, live from the entertainment capital of the world, your hosts, Jillian Batchelor and Daryl Hannah.
Hey everybody, Daryl Hannah here with Vegas Real Talk. Today we have a guest on that is going to teach us a thing or two about finance and a few things near and dear to my heart. And I'm hoping that there's a lot of young people watching today. Our boy Burke Weekes from New York Life.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on the show, buddy.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. We're realtors and we're always talking about real estate and talking about, interest rates and, different stuff about the market. And I thought I'd do a little different spin today and talk about something that is near and dear to my heart just because I've messed up so bad on it in my life. And, I've made it a kind of a point to try to help people, especially young people, not make those same mistakes. And I guess, if I'm going to take the big lumps and make those big mistakes, at least maybe I can help some people not do those things. Yeah. But we'll get more into that later. So, first thing I wanted to talk about is investing, building wealth, what young, really everybody, but, specifically like young people should start investing early, right?
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of like large numbers or rule of 72, there's a lot of finance terms out there. But pretty much it's like the law with compounding interest investing. It's if I start with, let's say $1,000 today versus, $1,000 10 years down the road and invest that and let it sit, where will it go? Right.
Yeah.
Cause all of us, we all went through algebra. We all know, the compounding interest is a lot like, it looks like this, right? The longer it's in there, the faster it grows.
Yeah. Which makes sense.
It does. And I'd say, especially with like young people or people that taught like starting younger, it's consistency is king, right? A lot of people, they finish up college or they're starting into college and they want to start, right? Get out of high school. They've been doing like their little part-time jobs or their full-time jobs just to start in the professional world. And it's start with just setting aside, right? Either it's building the habit and starting to set aside into like a little IRA account or one of the others. If you're worried about the market, there's other options out there as well. But it's like
But no matter what it is, consistency.
Consistency is really a rule. And I think when a lot of people are like, budget is like this big dark word that people don't like to throw around.
Especially when you're a young person.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You don't want to you're like, I got some change in the bank account and that's my budget,
Yeah.
And it's got to be a little bit more than that. And that's something that I'd say to a lot of young people is start taking like your finances and yourself seriously, because at the end of the day, it's like you have goals and you have visions for yourself, and take yourself seriously to like start setting aside for other things. It's a little bit of a discipline there.
And what's horrible is the schools just don't teach this stuff. And it blows my mind that, not even in college do they teach you how to do a budget or keep a checkbook or, they don't teach you how to invest.
No.
It's just crazy.
It is. I think right now there's about 4 or 5 states, and I think it's starting to shift, that require you to graduate high school by taking a finance class.
Oh, perfect. And that's great.
Yeah, but that's only 5 of 50 states.
Exactly.
So like you could
get 10%.
Like you could get all the way through college and never take a single finance class in your entire life, which blows my mind. But it also shows in like a lot of the statistics they show about people and their money.
Yeah, that live check to check and that don't have a savings account, and they don't, because really at the end of the day, it's no different than, I always teach like my new agents, like how important it is to have a mentor.
Yeah.
How important is it to in school be taught this stuff, right? If you're not taught and you don't know how to do it, which was really my case. Yeah. No one taught me. I never learned in school. No. My parents, God bless them, never taught me about to keep a checkbook or none of that stuff. So I just never did it. As long as I had money in the bank, I was cool.
Oh, absolutely.
If I'd have had somebody to show me, hey, Daryl, take $250 of this every month and just put it away. Yeah. I would have done it.
Absolutely. Like, but that's like a very real thing. It's like in our space, like I work with a lot of real estate. I've met a lot of people in different professions, and like whether you're like a doctor, a lawyer, or real estate, you tend to have someone you go to for questions. You tend to have people you seek out advice from.
Mentor.
Yeah, a mentor, whatever you want to call it, or a coach, mentor. But people don't do that for their finances, which is the funniest thing because there's a whole, like, there's literally a job for people to do that.
Yeah.
Like what I do.
Yeah.
Is I'm that person for a lot of people. I was up in Salt Lake City the other day, and I was talking to this gentleman, and we were sitting down going through pretty much the same thing. 30 years old. I know he's really close with a lot of people that I know. We sat down. It was the first time him and he'd had like a finance talk.
That he's ever had a talk, and he's like 30 years old.
30 years old. And I was just like, that's just the reality. Like you can get that far without ever having done it.
Well, I think when I think back, I was in my early 40s before I really started to learn about like finance and, you know, what to do, what not to do. And then, you know, by then you have a lot of regret because you're like,
absolutely. When
you look at the charts at somebody who started investing when they were 20 versus somebody who started investing when they were, you know, 35.
Oh yeah.
And they put the same amount of money in every year, but where do they end up at 60 is insanely different.
Oh, absolutely.
We're talking millions versus like hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
You know,
that's what it comes out to.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I think that when I first started in the industry, I was like a junior associate, brand new to a firm. I actually never forgot about this, but I went to a client meeting, this gentleman, and we drove up, and it was like gated community up on the mountainside. You know, we all know the types of communities.
Yep.
Drove up to this guy's house. I was super nervous. Very nice gentleman.
His house like made you like, oh my God.
I was like, you know, like first off, just came past the security guard to get into the community. I was just like, that's a whole different breed. And I was like, this guy, like, what has he been doing? Like, I want to know. So like, we're sitting down, we're chit-chatting, you know, and I asked him about what do you do for work? And he was like, well, I'm retired now. And I was like, okay, makes sense. Yeah. What did you do before you retired? He's like, I was a mailman. I've been saving since I was 18 and investing. And now I'm retired, multimillionaire.
A pretty young guy, or?
He was probably just about 60 range.
Yeah, 60, living on the hill.
Yeah, he's like, I've just saved. I've lived with 50% of my expenses, and then I save the rest.
Wow.
And invest. And I was like,
I love it.
I was like, if you can do it, like, and everyone throws about the market, but like, man,
yeah,
that was through.
And it's funny growing. Yeah, it makes sense too, because it answers a lot of questions I had growing up with some of my friends who I knew their parents didn't have big lucrative jobs.
Yeah.
You know, they seemed to just work like a 9-to-5 job.
Oh yeah.
Like my you know, I remember like, hey, my dad's going to be home at 5 o'clock. Like, we got to stop doing this crazy stuff we're doing, you know? Just like, you know, no, it's not like he was an investor jet setting around the world or whatever, but he always had money to go on trips. They always had nice things. They always, you know, seemed to live a really nice, and I had several of my friends' parents that were like that.
Yeah.
And I always wondered, man, how are they doing that? You know, did they get like an inheritance? But a lot of times it's not that. It's, they just saved from when they were young. They made the right choices.
Yeah.
And here's the big thing that I've learned, again, way too late in my life, but a big one for me was Gary Vee. When I started watching Gary Vaynerchuk, and you know, he teaches you a lot of the things he teaches is to, when you're younger, live small.
Yeah.
You don't have to have the big, bright, fancy, you know, diamond rings and the big fancy car and lease the big house. And when you're young, live small. Have a little beater, you know, live in a small little apartment, like save your money, you know, you gotta have the money when those opportunities present themselves. And I think that's the biggest thing for people who are listening is how many of us have these opportunities come across our desk and we're like, God, I wish I had 10 grand to throw in this investment. Yeah. We don't have it.
No, yeah. It's painful. I've actually had to learn this myself because I like cars. I like nice cars.
Mm-hmm.
And I had one for a while, a Maserati. And I went back and like, I sold it finally and got like a regular, like just like a little sedan son. And I went back and I was like, if I hadn't bought that car and I just kept my little like college car instead, what would be the difference in my bank account? It was over 10 grand.
Oh yeah. Well, and all the gas you'd have saved, the
Yeah.
insurance. You think
Oh,
about
yeah.
all the, I mean, expensive cars come with a lot of other expensive stuff.
Oh, yeah.
When you go to get a gas, like in my BMW, I literally spend $1,000 every time I take it in to get a gas, just get an oil change.
Oh yeah.
Should only be a couple $100, but they're always like, well, this has got to be changed. This got, I mean, it just,
It
to have an
adds up.
expensive car, it's expensive.
Yeah, but so like it's really true that like it's not you can live a great life, but also like keep it within.
Yeah. And you're really like another thing, Gary Vee, I'll refer back to him, is live small now so that you can live big when you get older.
Yeah.
Right. And it's so true. I'm a victim of not living small. And when I was younger, I trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
I went and leased, I rented a big house up in Summerlin. My wife was driving a brand new Cadillac Escalade. I was driving a 460 LS. Everything leased, everything rented. Just taking on 20 trips, going to Disneyland 5 times a year. I mean, it was, when you think back, it really was ridiculous. It was kind of like, dude, those years I could have lived a lot smaller. Yes, we would have been a little bit more uncomfortable, but we could have took 2 trips instead of 20.
Yeah.
We could have been driving a small,
Emphasis on small,
but save that money over those years.
Yeah.
And now had the big house and the big car and own everything.
Yeah.
It's just, I've done everything backwards, and I'm here to admit it. But I'm also here to try to help, because going on to a different subject that is near and dear to my heart, which has caused me a lot of grief, a lot of sleepless nights, almost cost me my marriage, is the little 3-letter term IRS.
Uncle Sam right there. That's
Uncle Sam. And so, my mom didn't teach me a lot. My dad, they didn't teach me a lot about finance, but one thing they did always tell me was don't mess with the IRS. And I wish I'd have listened to them on that one thing. And there was a lot of years I didn't listen to them, and I didn't do what I was supposed to do. And those penalties and interest add up real fast. And especially for 1099, employees, mostly those are sales people, who are responsible for their own taxes. If you don't put that, it's real easy to spend that money. I mean, you got it in one hand. You're like, well, I'm going to send this $10,000 to the IRS, or I could go on a trip and get a Cadillac Escalade and have a nice house. What do I do? It's like, it's not easy for a lot of people. And for me, not having the proper mentors around me, not growing up with that kind of background of finance. And my mistake is I always thought I could out-earn everything. I just thought, I know how to make a lot of money. When it comes time to pay it, I'll pay it.
It'll be there. I'll figure it out then.
And, I heard that Dave Ramsey got in the same issue with the IRS. He ended up owing the IRS a lot of money because he thought he could out-earn them. Yeah. But what happens is you get stuck in a pickle when you need it.
Yeah.
You think you're this big, badass freaking sales agent, which typically most people that think that maybe are. I don't know. I'm not taking that away from them.
Yeah. But
at the end of the day, it doesn't work. You can't out-earn your debt, especially the IRS.
No.
Their penalties and interest making a lot more money than you are.
I don't doubt it. Those guys are very.
It's insane. It's smart. Insane. And thank God, I joined forces with my business partner Jillian Batchelor back in 2018. I got the attorney, got the CPA, got everything handled, and thank God turned my life around in the finance department, and I'm on the right track. But it took me a lot of years.
Yeah.
And it's never too late. But man, I sure wish I'd learned these when I was 25 instead of 45.
Yeah, and I think there's like a huge 1099 is looked down on by a lot of if you're it's if I'm graduating college and I hear someone say you'd be a 1099 position, that'd be a red flag to me, because I know that's a lot of extra work, right?
Yeah. You see a lot of people that get in trouble when they're 1099s.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that don't come with it, like personal benefits from the company, it's easy to get dismissed or just have your contract cut, and it's also very easy to get on as far as tax side, because taxes
you're responsible for everything. yourself.
Yeah.
So I wanted to maybe give the viewers a few tips, what they could do to stay out of those types of problems. Yeah. And for, real estate agents out there that I'll speak to just because that's my profession.
Yeah.
What really helped me was putting that, 20%, 25% of every check you get into a separate account, not into the account that you use, into a separate account. Don't have a card associated to it. Yeah. You got to make it really hard to not access it.
Yeah.
That's the key. When I did my account, I made sure that I didn't have a card associated with it. I couldn't transfer funds over computer or on my phone. I had to literally go into the bank to do it. And so, man, that was a huge game changer for me. And it's hard at first to get into that rhythm,
that groove. Yeah.
But if you do it, man, and then what I found out is at the end of the year, I had overpaid and I got a return.
Yeah. Which doesn't happen often.
Too bad they sucked it all away because of the amount that I owed from the past. But, it was still one of the first returns I've got since I could remember. I was like, wow, this is great.
It's a good feeling.
Yeah. And it just went down to, buy down my liability from the past. But still, it was a good feeling that I had enough money that I had already paid. I didn't have to come up with this big number at the end of the year. So many agents just wait until the end of the year to see what their tax liability is, and they go, okay, well, I'll cut them a check. Well, what if at the end of the year comes and you don't have any? That's the problem.
Yeah, that's like you're gambling there, right there.
You're gambling that you're going to have that money in there, and so many agents don't when the time comes, and this is where they get in trouble.
And I think it's like there's a couple of things that I didn't understand for a while there, but if you don't pay on time, you get penalized in interest, right?
Oh, huge.
And it bites.
It is nuts.
We think of mortgages and credit cards having some interest. The IRS is just as bad, if not worse.
Yeah, and it's penalties and interest.
Yeah.
It's not just interest. It's both.
So it's a double whammy. The other part about it is, and I think this is really interesting because it's something I've had to do, even though I work in the industry, but I know myself well enough as my money habits that I have a separate bank account. There is a debit card, but I've kept it in a drawer, so I don't ever have it on me.
Lock it.
Right? But it's a separate bank. It's even a separate bank from where I keep my my main stuff.
Good.
So I have multiple banks that I work through, but I can only transfer one way to that bank account. It doesn't go back.
It doesn't go the other way. Good.
And that's just how I save. That's my saving.
Yeah.
Not even just tax because I'm not a 1099, but if I was 1099, I'd do it the same way.
Yeah.
Where it's I know I need to be saving. Or I need to be preparing for taxes, regardless of which one it is, but it's a separate bank account than what I actually use.
Exactly. Yeah, and there's, now you could pay, I know people that, twice a year they'll throw chunks in to their tax account. You don't necessarily have to have 20% out of every check sucked out. I mean, there's a few different ways to do it.
Oh, yeah.
That I think is the best way because it just keeps you honest. And, once I always heard another thing I always heard my mom talk about, she never really taught me what it meant. And I've heard people say it all the time.
Yeah.
She always said, make sure you pay yourself first. Well, I always wondered, didn't you just get paid?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Pay yourself. You just got paid. What does that mean? Pay yourself first. And literally another thing I did not learn what that meant until my early 40s. What it means is, when you get your check, first person that gets paid is the IRS. Second person then really becomes yourself, meaning that you put money away for savings, right?
Yeah.
So, 20% goes to the IRS, 20% go, 10%, whatever percent you've come up with goes towards your savings or investments or whatever it is. Then once you've taken care of those two things, and then obviously put money away for your living expenses, whatever's left really is up to you to do. If you want to go buy a new motorcycle, it's really, when I started living like that, when in 2018, not too long ago, it's freaking 4 years ago, really was liberating to know that, okay, I've paid the IRS. I've done what I was supposed to do. I've done my investments. I put my money away for, savings and I have, I've paid my bills, my living expenses. Wow. I mean, I could either put this more money into my investments or my savings. I can go and spend this money and not have to feel guilty about it. Because back in the years when I wasn't paying the IRS, I always had this huge guilt over me because I knew that wasn't my money.
You always know it's in the back of your mind, right?
Yeah. It's coming, man. You know it's coming. And I would just be, I know this is not my money. But you know what? For me, it was trying to make everybody happy.
Yeah.
My family, I wanted to keep them happy. I didn't want to say no. I didn't want to say no to trips, and I didn't want to say no to having nice stuff. I wanted them to go to private schools. I had two kids that were in private school at the same time. I didn't want to say no. And, at the end of the day, I think that's probably my biggest lesson, how to say no.
Oh, yeah.
You got to learn how to say no.
At some point. Otherwise, it catches up.
You can't say yes to everything.
Yeah.
Unless you're, making billions of dollars, whatever. I mean,
even then.
Yeah, you got to say no. Yeah. And what you find out is they're not going to get mad at you and leave you and not, be your family anymore because you say no.
Yeah.
Obviously that was a hang up I had. That goes back to God, who knows where, but and that's a whole different show.
I'll leave that one off.
That's a mental health show. Yeah. But I have learned a lot over the years, and I hope that someone can listen to this and get some pointers. What would you say for somebody who like me learned later on? Damn, I better start saving for retirement. What? Give them some pointers.
Yeah, I would say the longer you wait, the more you're going to have to give, right?
Yep. Double time.
Yeah,
that's where I'm at right now.
But it's actually true. It's like I would say people don't realize is depending on the lifestyle you want when you want to be done working.
Yep.
Right. Those are two big questions. When do I want to be done working? And what kind of lifestyle do I want to have? And depending on those two questions, it's never off the table.
Yeah.
It's just you might have to do more to get there.
Yep. You may have to sacrifice more. Yeah. You may have to make more, work harder, whatever it is. But yeah. I had to go through those same questions.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, what do you want to retire on? Okay, you're 45.
Yeah.
That's 20 years from now.
Yeah.
So it's simple math.
It is. And it's there's different ways because you'll have things like, for instance, most people have a 401k, right?
Yep.
Which is taxed when you get into retirement. Makes sense. The IRS wants to tax. It's,
of course.
When you've got the biggest chunk of change to tax, which it was meant to be a savings account along with pensions, which aren't really a thing anymore. But with that, it's there are other options to stash away money.
So
right?
Tell us some options.
So if you got a 401k, you can have an IRA. You can not hide money, but you can put money underneath an insurance policy, things called annuities, or you can have your individual brokerage accounts to get into stock market.
And when we say hide, because that is another word for it, but it's like a legal way to sidestep the IRS. Because and a lot of times it's just temporarily, right, where you're putting money.
I wouldn't say sidestepping the IRS because if you pay taxes on it now, or you're going to pay taxes on it later. You're still paying taxes. But if you pay taxes now, it's I can go put this underneath, a whole life permanent policy, and that can grow as well. And then I can pull out tax-free as long as I play by the rules, And so there's other ways, other kinds of accounts out there that people don't learn about. Although I do know that the insurance is becoming more popular because of TikTok and stuff like that.
Yeah.
People are starting to learn about it, even though it used to be
they're like life insurance policies that are double as savings accounts that play the market. Yeah.
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 Or even the ones that are more conservative that aren't even in the market, but they grow because the insurance company has it set up a certain way.
Gotcha.
And so those are all out there. And for people that are getting retired, there's huge benefits to accounts because when you get closer to retirement, you don't want your money staying in the stock market, right? Especially
now.
Right now when there's a recession, people are worried about. And it's you want to be more conservative. You want to have less market risk and stuff like that. there's other things out there. We can transfer your 401k and put it into what's an annuity, and then it pays out for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Or things like that. And so all that's out there. It's just requiring to sit down with someone that
Planning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sit down with someone that actually knows.
And like you said, a lot of people don't ever take the time to plan.
Which
They don't take the time to sit down and talk to somebody, and then all of a sudden it's all gone because they didn't plan. And then, that hurts.
Yeah.
So everybody listening,
Yeah.
Recession's coming if we're not already in it now. Stock market's not doing great. Crypto market, crashed in May.
Crashed huge.
If you've got money in the markets, it's good to sit down with somebody and talk to them and come up with a plan.
Yeah.
Hopefully you all have a plan. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that don't.
Yeah.
So we've got a few options. If you're older, obviously you need to pay more than if you started when you were young.
Yeah.
Starting when you're young just means you need to stay at it more consistently. You can put less in every month, but just be consistent at it and don't touch it.
Yeah.
Right? Now let's talk about that. There's some big penalties in some of this stuff when you touch it early, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like the government qualified accounts, the ones that are like, we're going to help with this, give you tax breaks for these. They'll take 10% right off the bat before they even touch taxes if you touch it before you're supposed to. Right?
Ouch.
It's like, which hurts, especially if it's a big chunk of change, right?
And I see a lot of people do that, like when they go to buy a house or they want to go buy a car and they pull the money out.
Yeah.
Now, there's correct me if I'm wrong, but there's some of those you can pay that back, right? You can borrow it for a certain amount of time or something, or how does that work?
There are different, like, there's exceptions. And then there are also there are moments that life events or something.
They're all different, right?
Yeah.
Like depending on what paperwork you signed.
Oh yeah.
Right? There's rules.
There is.
Yeah.
And then there are accounts you got your 401k and IRA, which play by a certain set of rules, and you got individual brokerage accounts, and tax rules where it's if I pull out from just a brokerage account where I own a bunch of Tesla, but it's not an IRA account or anything like that. I'm going to pay capital gains, but depending on what I'm doing with it, I might be able to defer that and wait till later. Or
gotcha.
Like that, do an exchange or something like that. And it works the same way with real estate. You got, was it 1035 exchange?
1031
exchange. And
there's
there's a lot of ways to maneuver. And I always say, if you want to know what your options are, you should have a handful of friends in different areas, one being an accountant, and another being a lawyer, as
an
well
accountant,
as an advisor,
an attorney, an advisor, a realtor.
Yeah,
it's good to have all those guys.
Oh yeah,
and if they're not your friends, at least have them on the payroll.
Take them out to dinner, and making your friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I don't know. I'm imagining that your business is a lot like the real estate business. There's a ton of people who, they're in it. They're really not sure what they're doing, but they're in it.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. Do you deal with a lot of that, or?
Yeah, every industry has that, right? My industry, the finance industry, just as much as the next. And I think what blows people away is I'm a professional. I sit down with people, I plan, advise, and stuff like that. But once you get outside that, it's such a, when I say the finance industry, it's such a broad industry that I worked for a venture capitalist firm. But those people that worked at the firm, they're technically in the finance industry, but they have no idea about half this stuff, right? You get in such a niche. So it's really easy to get people that
think they know what they're talking about?
Think, or they work with one specific aspect, and then suddenly it's but it's much broader and there's much more to it than that.
And I would imagine in what you guys do, you got to be real careful about how you advise people.
Oh yeah.
The liability's got to be astronomical.
Yeah, if I write business, I have to be able to prove why I made that recommendation.
Oh, really?
That was benefits.
That makes sense.
Most of the time, I have to depending on what I'm recommending, I might even have to write a statement about why I recommend this.
Wow. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Really, at the end of the day. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's something that people worry about with advisors is it's how do I know he's not cheating me or something like that?
Yeah.
We always hear about those Wall Street.
Well, especially
Wall Street
it's
funds.
easy when the market's doing really well and the market's going up, and your advisor's amazing.
Yeah.
But then when the market's going down, it's all of them are freaking out to get me, and they're not taking care of my stuff. And we hear it in our industry too.
Yeah. I believe it.
So, getting ready to wrap up here, what's one thing that you could give to, a younger person listening today, who's thinking about what to do with, is there it doesn't take a whole lot of money, does it, to grow wealth from when you're young? You don't need to put in thousands of dollars every month.
No, you really don't. I would say young person, I'm also young, so I can say my peer, people my age or younger. I would say if you're wanting to build wealth, right? And that's that term you have to really define for yourself, or to define, because I'm not rich. I'm creating wealth.
Yep.
Which is
for your future.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would say if you don't know, find somebody. Find someone that can teach you how to do this.
You can call Burke Weekes, his numbers right here. And we're going to have it on the screen for you too.
Yeah.
But good advice. Find somebody who you can talk to.
Yeah. Because you think about whenever you break down a car, you want to buy a house, all these different moments and stuff like that, you go to someone that knows what they're talking about, right?
Yep.
I don't ask a jeweler for how to fix my car. I go to the auto shop, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. You don't know, you're young, but you want that. Take the time. Take the time to go find somebody.
And people will talk to you.
Oh yeah.
It's not like you got to go pay $500 to sit down. There's tons of people will talk to you.
Yeah. More often than not, you can just sit down.
You charge anything to sit down and talk with somebody? No, that's great. Well, thank you, man, for coming in. I appreciate it. I wish we could sit here and talk about this for an hour. But I appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, of course.
All right. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for watching Vegas Real Talk, and we'll see you next week.